Hey, what's going on, y'all? My name is Kamal Robinson, also known as Kamal-Amir. So I want to share a story with you guys. Actually, I feel compelled to share a story with you guys. This particular story I've never shared with anyone, especially in a story form. So let me get into the story, right? So this story starts when I was at the age of 18. Now, at the age of 18, I was nothing like the man that I am today. And I was a little reckless, getting a little wild, a little out of control. And basically, I committed a reckless offense, which ultimately landed me and county prison, CFCF to be exact. So I committed an armed robbery. I was arrested, locked up at CFCF, the Current Farm Hold Correctional Facility located on Philadelphia State Road. So I was in CFCF for 1 year actually fighting this case, right? Prison, county prison can be extremely stressful, especially the whole court process, the back and forth, the not knowing what's going to happen, right? It's like your life is literally in limbo. And this is literally not a life and death situation, but just a life situation where you don't know where you're going to go. Of course, I'm hoping to go home, right? But at the moment, things weren't really looking good. So it's just a back and forth going to court. The court process in itself is extremely stressful. It's physically and emotionally draining. Just the back and forth. You go to court, you don't get in. You go to court the next time, they postpone it for 3 months, and it's back to CFCF. So it's almost, to me, it seems like they do it to try to stall you out and just wear you down. And for me, personally, it got to a point where it wore me down. So as far as my case, the DA was looking to get me a 15 to 30 year sentence. That's what they was going for. If found guilty, I was looking at 15 to 30. The lawyer told me it wasn't looking good. His best advice, his expert's advice, was for me to accept a 5 to 10 year plea agreement that they had put on the table, right? So when he presented this to me, I did one of those, right? 5 to 10, to me, that wasn't, that was a little harsh. It was better than 15 to 30, but still just the idea of going away for any amount of time, especially for me, I had no priors, right? That it was a hard pill for me to swallow. So I asked my lawyer, I said, how much time would I have to do out of 5 to 10? He said 85% of the time. So again, I'm like, wow, right? I had no priors. This was my first event. So for me, it felt like they were just hitting me hard. But you know, you do the crime, you gotta do the time. So I'm like, all right, whatever, bet, I'll accept it. So I go to court, stand before the judge. You know, she tell me everything, make sure I explain that, make sure she explained, make sure that she understood everything that I was accepting, right? So my father was there, my mother was there, my brothers was there, I had cousins there, had aunts was there, everybody, as far as my family, was there for support. I didn't get to say anything to them, really just got to look at them, and I was hurt, I was distraught. I was, you know, it was like a mix of emotions, man. And I knew my parents were so hurt and disappointed at my actions, but I take the plea deal, right? And once I left the courtroom, I had to go to a holding cell for a few minutes. So I get into this holding cell, I'm sitting there by myself. I had about 10, maybe 15 minutes to myself. Got in there and I cried, man. The tears came down. Like I said, I was just overwhelmed by so many emotions, but a part of me was relieved that the whole back and forth, the court process was over, because now it's like, all right, I know what it is that I'm facing. Even though it was still difficult to face it, right? Because I'm trying to wrap my mind around the fact that I just accepted a 5 to 10 year deal and I'm be going away upstate for 5 to 10 years. I'll be away from my family, right? And still don't know exactly where. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. And I remember I said to myself out loud, I said, I'm 19, 5 years, I'll come home at the age of 24. So when I actually said that out loud, it didn't seem as bad to me as I initially thought it was when I said it out loud. I wasn't even thinking about the fact that my lawyer said I got to do 85% of my time. I just said 5 years, come home at 24. It felt like something that I was able to do, right? And at that moment, I think it made the rest of the process a little bit easier, because there was no internal struggle with the time. At that very moment, I made the decision and I accepted it, right? So I had to get myself together, right? Because once I left the holding cell, I was to go to another holding cell with probably 20, 30 other people who was waiting to be bussed back to CFCF. So I had to, you know, shake that little moment off, that moment of weakness and emotion, and just get myself together. So anyway, I leave there, bust me back to CFCF. I'm at CFCF for about another 2 weeks. Get the call after that, Kamal Robinson, inmate 939-473, it's time to pack up, all right? So I knew what it was. It's D-Day, it's time to go, all right? So I get on this bus, bunch of us on this bus, 30, 40 people on this bus. We shackled at the wrists, shackled at the ankles, The shackle from the wrist is actually shackled to the ankles, and he put this thing on your hand that keeps your hand like this, like you're trying to receive a football, right? A football handoff. And I mean, this wreaked havoc on my wrist, man. I think it took about 3 weeks after they took those things off me for my wrist to get back right. Shoulder pain while I was on the bus, just crazy uncomfortable. So I'm on this bus. The first stop is Camp Hill, SCI Camp Hill, located in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. All right, so we get off the bus. This is where my upstate experience started. They unload us off the bus. They move us like cattle. Once you get to CFCF, these COs there is rough. A lot of them is racist, and they just like overly aggressive. At least that's how they was when I got there, right? So we get off. They line us up. We get in there. We got to strip all our clothes off. We get butt naked. I mean, bare butt naked. Everything hanging and swinging. They washing us up. They give us the soap. You got to get it in your beard, get it in your hair, all over your body. The soap is medicated, designed to kill, supposed to kill lice, right? Just in case you have any lice. They don't want you bringing any lice into their facilities, right? So that was my first experience. Stripped me down. They gave us clothes to wear. I mean, they gave me these pants. These pants were so tight, I could barely even buckle them. They might as well have been yoga pants. So I tell the CEO, I'm like, sir, these pants are too small for me. Immediately, he snapped out, I don't care, keep it moving. So I'm like, all right, what is that? Whatever, right? So that was the experience. They set the tone early. All right, so I spent the next 2 months at Camp Hill. Camp Hill seems to be like a processing center. A lot of people, when they coming from the counties to go to Camp Hill, when you're in Camp Hill, again, it's like a processing, like a transition phase. You'll be there for however long until they determine where you're going to go to spend your time. So some people will stay at Camp Hill. I think a lot of people actually leave and go to whatever prison where they're going to carry out their sentences. For me, I was actually sent to SCI Pine Grove, located in Indiana, Pennsylvania. This is where I was going to spend the next 63 months of my life, right? So I get there, get to the place. The facility from the outside didn't look too bad. It didn't look anything like the Shawshank Redemption that I seen on TV, or Alcatraz, and anything like that, or any of the crazy things that I conjured up in my mind as far as the prison experience. I mean, except for the barbed wire and the razor wire on the other fence, the facilities look clean and new. Actually, when I got there, at the time that I got there, the facility had only been, I think, 5 to 6 years old. So it was fairly new, right? Unlike Gratisford, where everything was old, you got those old gates that clink, 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 boom, and close behind you and stuff like that. This was a new facility. It was clean. There was no roaches. There was no rats. There was no mice running around like it was in CFCF. So at least that part kind of set me a little at ease, right? Because it wasn't like them old castles that I seen on TV and in the movies. So I get here, right? This is where I'm going to spend my time at. So the prison experience for me, man, it could be lonely, right? Your pen pals, your girlfriends, your friends, a lot of your friends fall off. I had girlfriends that was riding for a little bit. Eventually got to the point where, they would write once a week. Then it'd be like once every other week. Then once a month. Like literally, then it's once every other month. Then before you know it, years go by, you haven't even heard from them. So that is a little hurtful, but it's to be expected. You understand what I'm saying? But prison could also be extremely brutal, because it's almost like it's designed to break you, right? And specific COs, it's almost as if they make it their priority to come to work every day to make your life, your stay, a living hell, right? They'll try to degrade you. They'll talk to you in any old manner, extremely disrespectful. Some of them are racist. Certain prisons, a lot of them are racist, right? So my skin color is just a strike against me from the rip, on top of the fact that I'm in prison, and they want you to know wholeheartedly that they run the show and you're in their house. You understand what I'm saying? So the humiliation, right? They'll try their best to degrade you, things like that. Now what I mean is they'll violate your rights, right? You almost have no human rights when you're in those facilities. When your mail come in, they open your mail first. They read your mail. Random cell searches. Could you imagine just random strangers coming into your cell, rummaging through your things? Sometimes they got a dog with them. The dog is sniffing. Dog is on your bed. You don't even know the dog been, but a dirty dog is jumping up on your bed. You understand what I'm saying? Random searches. Sometimes when they shake the whole block down, when they do a whole block shakedown, they got everybody standing outside their cells in your drawers while you got COs going through everybody's things. Visits is one of the worst things, man. Visits, it's a good and it's a bad. It's the pros and the cons. It's a dark side and a bright side. On the flip side, on the one side is you love to see your family. Right now, Indiana, Pennsylvania was about 5 to 6 hours from my home. So I got visits, but visits didn't come often. But when they came, it was a beautiful thing. I love to see my mom and my dad, right? But the harsh part is when they're going this way and you're going that way. And not only that, after every visit, another strip search. And I mean bucket naked. Take everything off, lift your sack, turn around, spread your cheeks, bend over, cough. Humiliating, degrading, an experience I never got used to no matter how many times that I had to go through that process. It was always humiliating, it was always degrading, right? They, they try to break you in prison. One thing that I learned is that they can box you in though. They had me boxed in. But one of the greatest things that came about through that is that I learned that they can't box in. They can't box this in. They had my body boxed in. I was limited physically to where I could go and what I could do. But your mind, your mentality, and I had to learn this firsthand, they can't box your mind in. Only you can lock that up. So what I did when I was in prison, stereotypical thing, I read so many books. I learned so many things. And when you're reading them books, as you already know, them books can take your mind to a whole nother stratosphere, to a whole nother universe. So that's what I did. Now I'm gonna get into one key point, two key points. Some seeds that were planted through this first upstate experience that was to be pivotal to my life, my entire life, and the trajectory that I chose, the path that I chose, the journey that I chose, right? All started from there, literally for the remainder of my life. Two programs that was on TV. I know this might sound funny, but this is the God honest truth. Two programs where seeds were planted that was to literally shape and direct me for the rest of my life, the rest of the course of my life. The two programs was on the Travel Channel. I was an avid Travel Channel watcher. Two specific shows. One was Passport to Europe. Miss Samantha Brown was the host. And then the second one, my favorite show, one of my all-time favorite shows to this day, was Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations. These shows on the Travel Channel, these two people, when they travel, they opened me up to a whole nother world that I didn't know exists. Of course, I always wanted to travel, but I didn't know about these places they went. And they didn't go to just resorts, which is why Anthony Bourdain's show was No Reservations. There was no resorts, there was no fancy hotels. He was literally showing you the raw, authentic places that he went to, right? So if he was in Cambodia, it wasn't a hotel, a fancy Ritz hotel. He was literally where the natives, where they party, where they hung, where they drunk, what they ate. You understand what I'm saying? And it opened me up to a world that I didn't know existed, places that I didn't know existed. Man, when they traveled, when they moved, when they shot, Samantha Brown was in these open markets, I lived vicariously through them. I was there. Physically, my body was in Pine Grove in Indiana, Pennsylvania. But my mind, my imagination, man, I could just close my eyes and zone out. I was wherever they were. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the taste of the food is like I could literally just close my eyes and I can taste it. When he explained the certain taste of the foods, when she explained the certain taste of drinks, I was there. But what they did was they sparked and ignited a desire, a passion, a hunger to not only just travel to explore and experience the globe, different cultures and different walks of life, but to truly be free. I believe there's levels to freedom because I believe there's a lot of people who never spent 1 hour, 1 minute in prison, but they're still not free. They're still in prison, right? That's what I believe. But when this is free, there's no such thing as imprisonment. When this is free, there's no such thing as imprisonment. And I learned that. That's one of the greatest lessons I learned. But those seeds were planted back then. So ever since them shows, that inspiration that Mr. Tony Bourdain and Miss Samantha Brown, ever since the inspiration from them, I've been on a path to vehemently live free. I mean, free. Not to just be outside the walls of a prison, but to truly be able to live life with no boundaries, to be boundless, to live life with no limits, to do things on my terms. And those seeds were planted, and it all stemmed from them two shows. That was it. That's where my desire was sparked. That's where the hunger, that's where the desire, that's where the passion came from. And ever since then, I've been moving on a laser-focused path, right, to ultimate freedom. All right, so that's the end of the story, right? So part 2 is coming soon. So I want to thank y'all for actually listening to the story and giving me time to actually express and share this personal story with y'all. Like I said, I've never shared this in story form. please like, share, comment, anything. If this made you feel any type of way, if any of you guys actually experienced this and y'all can personally relate to it, just leave me some type of comment, right? Anything I'm grateful for. But stay tuned for part 2 of this because I'm not done. Like I said, the seeds were planted here, but the journey continues and there's more to come. So until next time, man, until the next video, you guys be safe, be cool, stay blessed, keep striving, keep grinding, keep thriving, keep learning. Never let them box this in. Never let them box this in. Like I said, they boxed my body in, but they couldn't box this in, right? They couldn't break me down. Prison could either make you or break you. They couldn't break me, man. Fortunately, I'm cut from a good cloth. You understand what I'm saying? So, yes, keep letting this thing expand. As long as that expands, you're alive and your future's bright. So I'm out of here now. On that note, y'all, I'm out of here. Again, the name is Kamal Robinson, also known as Kamal-Amir. Hopefully I see you guys in the next video. Peace and blessings.